morning, everyone. Welcome to the youth service of August. Thank you for braving the dangers of life and all the stresses of current situation to be here. On the plus side, we're at the end of August, which is the end of the growth period of this year. So everything will be coming back to you, all the struggles and the seeds you've sown. Let's make a victorious start to the completion stage of the year and finish on a note that we can be proud of before God and parents and also ourselves and our family. So to start with, we've got the choir up. You might notice that the choir is spread out in order to comply with COVID restrictions. We've got Jesse over there, Robert, and Hetty in the back. So appreciate all the efforts. And let's start with the first song. Kumbaya. Next song, could we please all rise for the next song? The song is Try a Little Kindness.
See your sister.
Thank you. We'll have a half bow now, parents. Chariot, Bear. Family place number 3. Our family, the owner of Cheonyeonguk, pledges to perfect the 4 great realms of heart, the 3 great kingships, and the royal family by centering on true love. Please be seated for the invocation prayer. Good morning, Heavenly Parents, church parents. So today we've got our youth service again, and I'm grateful for all the people that have made it here, but also the people that have put together the time and effort to put this service together. And I pray that we can all have our stresses and our worries set aside as we open our hearts and minds to listen to our brother Ken as he gives his talk. Pray that we can start this week on a good note on this page and enjoy our time together. Thank you, and it says prayer in our names, Yestosh Park and James Nava, blessing for couple. Chu. Ooh, yes, this comes first. So please enjoy the global news.
Greetings one and all. This is Peace TV's HJ Global News, bringing you hopeful news from around the world. Less than a week from now, we will mark the 8th anniversary of True Father's Holy Ascension. And it is in memory of True Father that we are working with True Mother to secure the realization of Cheonyeonguk, where True Father said he wished to live even for one day. This week we have prepared the 5th among 7 special regional segments on Heavenly Africa. It reflects on successful moments in the course toward Vision 2020 and looks ahead to success in Vision 2027. May the content of this week's news uplift and strengthen you in mind and heart. In 1975, missionaries from Japan, the United States and Germany went out to 95 nations, bringing the total number of mission nations to 127 worldwide. It was at this time that the Providence in Africa began in earnest. Despite challenges to health, severe persecution from some governments and even martyrdom, the missionaries and members together strove with all their hearts to build the movement through exemplifying God's love and the principal teachings. Now Africa is becoming a blessed land, where more righteous people who can move nations are awakening and beginning to move the continent.
하늘이 이 한때를 위해서 당신이 길러 나온 준비된 의인을 보았습니다.
Witnessing, creating environments for witnessing and training future leaders, True Parents' strategies. Religious leaders, tribal chiefs and visionary politicians prepared by God are working with us across Africa and contributing to a great leap forward in the Providence.
I'm not a formal speaker. I speak from the heart. This is the work of True Mother, putting all religions together. I am honored and excited to be here today hosting True Mother, the only begotten daughter here in South Africa. This day will be remembered. It will not be erased.
For the first time, we co-convened a World Summit hosted by a nation's sitting president, with prominent figures from Africa's 54 countries. The year 2018 thus began with True Parents' teachings being disseminated at a forum of highest leadership, surely accelerating the providence of the restoration of faiths and nations.
Elle rend hommage à sa veuve, Dr Agja Hanmoun, qui poursuit avec foi et persévérance son œuvre au service de la paix universelle. Je voudrais la remercier pour ce message d'espoir qu'elle vient de livrer à l'endroit du continent africain, berceau de l'humanité, et meurtri par tant de siècles de conflits, de guerres et de fléaux. Je crois en cette Afrique nouvelle. Je crois en une Afrique capable de se prendre en charge.
Notably, True Mother offered a moving prayer to liberate and bless Africa, a land that had seen great suffering and sorrow. Mother's prayer resonated across the continent, bringing healing and new promise.
사랑하옵는 하늘 부모님, 이 아프리카의 백성들을 기억하여 주시옵소서. 인류 한 가족의 꿈을 이룰 수 있는 이 아프리카가 되어 하늘 부모님을 중심 삼고 완전히 하나된 화합과 통일의 세계를 이룩할 수 있는데 적극 협조하기를 참 부모님의 이름으로 해온 성사 하나이다.
In 2019, with rallies of hope for the victory of Vision 2020 being held in rapid succession, True Parents presided over the blessing of 100,000 couples in South Africa. Mother presented a signboard and flag to the Revelation Church of God and embraced its millions of members as a sibling church under our Heavenly Parent. Mother inspired the Heavenly Africa Project Memorandum of Understanding agreed between the Sao Tome and Principe government and UPF. She brought the summit hosted by the nation's president, the blessing ceremony and a 40,000-strong youth festival to successful conclusions.
Le projet pour une Afrique céleste a été lancé par la fondatrice de la Fédération pour la paix universelle, la mère de la paix, Dr Agja Han. Ce thème reprend du reste la vision des chefs d'État et de gouvernement africains. Je n'ai aucun doute que le 21e siècle sera africain.
In Niger, where the blessing ceremony and summit were held on the national level, an agreement for the Heavenly Africa Project was signed on the continental level by the Africa Union, ECOWAS and the G5 Sahel, an organization for the Sahara region nations. In South Africa, where the blessing ceremony was the cornerstone for the restoration of a continent, True Parents held the Holy Water Ceremony for 200,000 people from throughout Africa, including tribal kings and chiefs, government representatives and faith leaders. Furthermore, the declaration of Heavenly Africa opened the way for God to dwell more deeply with the African people.
오늘 이날 아프리카 54개국의 선남 선녀들이 하늘 부모님을 모시는 축복을 통해서 이 아프리카는 하늘 부모님이 영원히 함께하는 신 아프리카 대륙이 되었음을 선언합니다.
In accordance with True Mother's strategy for Vision 2027, we are going to improve substantially our foundation in creating the environment for witnessing our Heaven Travel Messiah activities, blessing single candidate, and raising future leaders. We will train youth leaders to take leadership position. By February 2023, we are planning to have all national leaders as second-generation members. We will expand the activity of the International Association of Youth and Students for Peace. We are committed to support and contribute in the reunification of North and South Korea as a foundation for the Heavenly Unified World by 2027. As Heavenly Africa, we are profoundly grateful for True Mother's accomplishment during the past 7 years in this continent. We are committed during this new 7 years course to work together with our beloved True Mother with absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience to fulfill our responsibility for the firm establishment of Chonlikuk. As a member of Heavenly Parent Holy Community, we will expand our foundation to honor our beloved True Mother, the only begotten daughter of Almighty, the Heavenly Mother. Thank you, True Mother. We love you.
Heavenly Africa has become a blessed land that has come to the forefront. It will light the way to the successful conclusion of Vision 2027 for the realization of a heavenly unified world, the fulfillment of the dream of one family under Heavenly Parent. And now we will bring you some news from the nations around the world. UPF Bolivia in heavenly Latin America hosted a victory meeting for the 1 Million Rally of Hope. In Bolivia, where the rally was broadcast or reported on 35 TV stations and media agencies, the vision of the heavenly unified world was offered to the 1 million citizens who watched the rally. The meeting, broadcast live via internet, television and radio, was attended by 180 peace ambassadors, including parliamentarians and representatives of broadcasting stations. TV personnel and journalists alike had high praise for the unprecedented rally and expressed their gratitude that it might contribute to peace for all of humankind. Plaques of appreciation in the name of the Washington Times and the Universal Peace Federation were bequeathed to ambassadors for peace and broadcasting station personnel who contributed to the event's success. In Côte d'Ivoire, where protests against the current president's running for a third term in office ended in bloodshed, the Universal Peace Federation announced a statement of peace, calling for peace and unity among all citizens. The statement, which expressed sympathy for the bereaved and hope for the rapid recovery of the injured, also asked for peaceful communication and dialogue. It was televised nationally. In Côte d'Ivoire also, 7-day workshops for the fulfillment of the Heavenly Tribal Messiah mission were held in all parts of the country. At the workshops held in Abbeville and Yamoussoukro, most of the 40 participants made the resolution to go on to attend a 21-day workshop. Sub-Region 1 in Heavenly Japan hosted a Top Gun youth reunion. To prevent the spread of COVID-19, just 650 people attended the Assembly of Youth and Students in person, while more than 3,000 joined online. Upon receiving the special message from True Parents, the young people resolved to multiply the number of regular members by 10 times under the slogan, "The light of Hyojong will brighten tomorrow." It was a time of revival with Hyojong speeches and messages on transforming crises and limiting situations into ones of hope and positivity. Everyone resolved to renew their commitment to support the success of their mission.
自分たちが2世として何ができるのかとか、それから自分たちがどういうことをしていかなければならないのかということを一人一人がもう一度考え直して、しっかりと今後の身のためにもお母様のためにしっかりと頑張ってやっていかなければならないと思いました。
In the Asia-Pacific region, an online meeting for the sharing of heart was held for 300 or so students and youth from 14 nations. The young people heard testimonies and speeches on leading a life of faith, the blessing, and practicing divine principle in real life, and took part in a question and answer session. There was time to reflect on their present situations and to resolve to become people of influence in transforming minds and hearts, and also rescuing the environment. At the same time, CARP members in Italy hosted the Meditation on the Road Gift of Song concert. While taking time to reflect in Mother Nature, they presented songs of healing and consolation to their neighbors with whom they are working together to get through this time of difficulty. Peace TV will offer a live webcast of the ceremony commemorating the 8th anniversary of our True Father's Holy Ascension. This will air on September 4th at 10 a.m. Korea time in 8 languages and can be viewed on the Peace TV website, including by mobile app or Facebook. Here at Peace TV, we hope that by joining in with members from around the world, you will inherit True Parents' love and conviction that a heavenly unified world is truly possible. Thank you for taking the time to watch today.
Wow, some very impressive news there. Reverend Bakari, by 2023, all national leaders in Africa will be second gen. Really puts things into perspective, I think. Can the choir please come up for the next song? Song of the Heavenly Soldiers. much, choir. Please take a seat. So to introduce our speaker, this is someone who I've known for a couple of years. He hasn't been up on the stage in 5 years, I've been told. But I know he's been a huge asset to the community, and especially to the youth. I've always enjoyed our discussions about faith and the church, and he's always been an unwavering pillar for me in regards to representing true parents here in our little community. So I'd like to welcome him up. Please welcome him with open hearts and loud applause.
Thank you, Yasser. Good morning. Like Yasser said, it's been, I think, around 5 years since I've last come up and given a Sunday sermon. There we go. So I am actually quite nervous to share with you today, but I hope you'll be understanding and able to take something from my sermon today. So the title of my sermon is My Starting Point in Faith. I had asked Reverend John for a recommendation as to what I should share or what my title should be, and he shared that I should talk about my turning point in faith. And then I thought that, well, I don't have a massive turning point, and so instead I could share with you about my starting point in faith. So some people experience a big turning point that would radically change their faith. It would change their relationship with God. It would change their relationship with true parents. It would change their relationship with their parents as well. And yeah, I wanted to share with you my story of my, not turning point, but my starting point in faith. So first, I'm sure almost everyone, but most of you would know me already, but I'm quickly going to go a little bit just over myself. So my parents are National Messiah to Cambodia. We moved to Cambodia in 1998. I was there for 10 years. My parents are still there, so they're there for 22 years now. I finished high school there after 10 years, and then I went to Sun Moon University, where I graduated in 2014, and then I've been living in Sydney since. So I've been here for 6 years now. I was blessed in 2010 at the age of 18. And then I worked at Flight Center Travel Group for 5 years, and currently I am unemployed, thanks to COVID. Also this year I received my Australian citizenship, so I'm now an Australian citizenship. So first I want to share with you about my upbringing and its influence on my faith. So I always like to think that my upbringing was a very typical kind of Unification Church missionary upbringing, in the fact that father was never at home. Mom was always busy, either with events, lectures, or writing reports on the computer. And my mother also held all of the titles of the church. So whether it was, Women's Federation, she was, I don't know if it's director or, leader, whether it was UPF, whether it was FFWPU. So she basically held all of the titles from an early point, because my parents pretty much pioneered most of the church in Cambodia. So there were very, very few members when we first moved over. So my parents made the difficult decision to move from Germany. So the picture on the left is actually still in Germany, and then the picture on the right is a picture of us in Cambodia, in front of Angkor Wat. But my parents made the difficult decision to move to Cambodia. This is in 1998, so Cambodia was very poor and very run down. And as children, we didn't really understand, that it was a tough decision. We didn't really understand the faith and the conviction that was required from our parents in order to make such a move. If we think about it now, it is quite an amazing as well as quite a crazy move to bring your family of four young children to Cambodia. So if you think about who would in their right minds bring a family of young children to a third world in Cambodia. And the decision to move actually came when my older brother, so he's, in both pictures, he's on the left-hand side, and I'm on the right-hand side. So the decision to move to Cambodia came when, I guess my older brother had a kind of bad spiritual experience in Germany. Now, I don't know or remember the full details, but my understanding of it was that he was either possessed or had, like an evil spirit came to him and was trying to possess him. So for me as a young boy, it was a really scary kind of experience. But so when that happened, this was after my parents received the mission to become National Messiah to Cambodia. They felt that this was happening because they were not moving or they were not doing anything with the mission they had received. And so after that happened, they felt, okay, this is a push from the spirit world that we have to do something with the mission that we've received. And after that, they made the decision to move to Cambodia. Both of these pictures, by the way, are in Cambodia as well. Now, if we think about, the external factors of Cambodia, it is not a very good country or not a very good place to grow up in. But I would now actually testify that growing up in Cambodia was actually a blessing in disguise. So, in summary, I would say that growing up in Cambodia helped create the foundation for my faith. In Cambodia, there were no blessed families. Actually, before I go into that, these pictures here, the first 3 pictures on the top, they're all pictures taken in Germany. So that's me and my father, and then in the middle, this is when it was snowing, and then on the very right-hand side, that was me as well. I don't think it's common to get a picture of me laughing. I heard that I cried a lot as a baby. But the 3 pictures on the bottom are pictures all taken in Cambodia. So this is the one with the soccer ball. I think that was my birthday. We invited our friends to come over, and we just played soccer on the streets, some of us barefoot. But yeah, I would say that growing up in Cambodia was a blessing in disguise. So there were no blessed families in Cambodia. We were the only second generation in Cambodia growing up. So we did, desire to meet and be with other second generations our age as well. But luckily, we didn't feel too lonely around the fact that there were no other second gens. The closest second gens was actually in Thailand, which is another country. But because there were no other second gens around, so the only thing that I knew growing up as a second generation about the value or the meaning of a second generation or what a second generation is supposed to be like was what my mother told me. And, she told us that second generations are children of God. Second generations are born with great talents. Second generations are treasures to God and true parents. Second generations have no original sin. Second generation are the hope of first generation. And second generations are God to close and true parents. And that second generation should become leaders in any field that they get into, right? So, and I still absolutely believe in this. But at the same time, when I was young, what I thought was every second generation is naturally like that. And so my image of second generation was that, okay, every second generation around the world is really, really close with God and true parents. Everyone is, like a Superman, basically, a super person who is great and amazing and has, absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience to God and true parents. But at the same time, this kind of became the standard, or this is what I strove then to become, or strove to follow, because, my mother kept saying that this is what second generations have to be. So I would say that this actually, her teaching and her reminder of this is what second generation is like, became the foundation and starting point of my faith when I was young. So I can say that at this point, this was not yet my own discovery of faith. I can say that this is more of the faith of my parents, especially from my mother. However, I would also say that this was vital in the development of my own faith and in the development of my relationship with God and true parents. So this kind of teaching, this kind of repetition about what second generations are like, or supposed to be like, gave clarity to me to what was good and what was bad. And possibly thanks to this kind of, education I received when I was a young child, all of my siblings were able to receive the blessing. So one message that I would like to share with everyone is that when making a decision regarding God's will, even though externally it may look like it would be difficult or it would be in a bad environment, or the environment would be hard. So for example, my parents' decision to move to Cambodia, if you think about it externally, I'm sure they would have worried about where are the kids, gonna grow up? What kind of environment are they gonna grow up in? What kind of school are they going to go to? Does Cambodia have adequate schooling? Thankfully it did. You wouldn't think it does, but so externally it might seem that it is not a good decision to do. However, when it is done centered on God, then God will bless and protect your children. So that is something that I think I wanted to share through my parents' faith and through my parents moving to Cambodia. And that is something that I believe that a lot of first generations actually have shown in their life, especially missionaries and people who went to other mission countries. And that is something that I wanted to share because I think that also as second generations, we need to recognize that our parents had that kind of path. And if we think about it now, like if I were to bring my family to move to Cambodia with Jihan, would that actually be possible? And how difficult that would be, and whether or not I would actually be able to do so, because my parents did so. I still got to think, can I actually do that? Yeah, and another message that I wanted to share was, I mentioned earlier that the way that she taught me about second generations was pretty much based on her faith, right? So every second generation has their own path in life, and every second generation has their own experience in life. So everyone has their own way or path in finding and maturing their relationship with God and true parents. And in Australia, we often hear that we have to make our own decision. We have to find our own faith, and it is important for us to make the choice. And I do believe that that is true. It is important for us to make the choice and make the decision. But at the same time, what I want to focus on, or what I want to emphasize, is that we should never disregard what our parents tell us. Even though we say we should be making our own choice, that doesn't mean that we should go against what our parents say, or we shouldn't disregard what they say. But instead, I think that we should be proud to say that our faith stems from our parents, or that our faith starts from our parents. And so, yeah, I would say, instead of thinking I must make my own decision without my parents, I would say that we should make our own decision based on the help or based on the guidance from our parents. So I think that true maturity and true independence is understanding what your parents say, and then have your own experience to back that up, and then make your own decision that you want to follow and love God and true parents just like your parents did. So that is what I think is true maturity. In fact, I think making a decision without your parents or going against them is not a sign of maturity, but it is a sign of not yet having fully matured yet. So then I went to Korea. Oh yeah, this is true maturity and independence. It's understanding what your parents say, have your own experience, back that up, and make the decision to love God and true parents, just like your parents do. So then after 10 years in Cambodia, I went to Korea at the age of 17. So this is just some pictures of me in Korea. Now, you might notice, but the picture on the very top left this was already when I was in uni. You can see Daniel was there at the same time. So Daniel was there for 1 year during the time I was in Korea for 5 years. And if you take a look at the picture on the very bottom left, you'll see that Chizuru was there at the same time that I was there as well. So actually, I knew both Chizuru and Daniel before they got matched. I think I was there during their matching process in Korea, and Daniel was there as well. So anyway, the picture on the middle in the left, that was me giving a speech in Korean. This is, I think, around the time I graduated from the Korean Language Institute. It was a contest of giving a speech in Korean. I think I came in 3rd place. I do not remember smiling when I was on stage because I was so nervous. I had no idea what I was going to do. So I absolutely don't remember myself smiling. So I'm surprised that there was a picture of me smiling on stage like that. And then the picture in the middle with all the McCall cans is actually one of the friends, so the friend on the very left-hand side in the front, I think it was over 2 semesters, he drank a whole bunch of McCall cans, and every time he drank one, he'd leave the empty bottle in his room. So by the end of 2 semesters, he'd actually have a whole bunch of McCall cans, and we just, at the end of the semester, we just used that to build up. Actually, that was just one thing we built. We built another, like a pyramid thing with the whole can as well, and the pyramid was our height, like it came up all the way here in form of a pyramid, so that's quite crazy. Whoops. And then the picture on the right, it's actually, both pictures are cut off, but this is actually me and a couple of other people. For 1 year, I was a model for the school. So they gave us actually suits, and they gave us clothing and etc. to wear and model for the school. And we did that for 1 year. So on the university website, my picture would come up quite frequently at that time. Now I think they probably have different pictures. But that was just a picture of, so I'm wearing, you can't see my face, I'm cut off, but I'm wearing the green, the mint colored t-shirt. And the person in the middle is the president of the university. So anyway, I went to Korea at the age of 17, entered into Sunmun University. And in Korea, I had the opportunity to finally meet other second generations my age. And it became quickly apparent to me that the image that I had of all second generations around the world being so amazing, close to God and true parents was more of an ideal, and it was not quite the reality. And unfortunately, it quickly became apparent to me as well that there would be second gens that I would be comfortable to be around with, and then there would be other second gens who I wouldn't feel very comfortable to be around with. And like I remember, this is back when I was still, before entering uni, when I was studying Korean, there were some second gens who, even though I had never actually talked with them, I kind of tried to distance myself because I could feel, okay, these guys are like they're second gen, but they don't really feel very close to God and true parents. They don't really feel like a second gen. And based on the standard that my mother had told me, okay, second gen is like this, I could tell that, okay, these guys were not necessarily that way. And Sunmun University has still a lot of second gens, but there's also a lot of people who are not church members or who are not second gen. And it's interesting because being in Sunmun, I was able to kind of quite accurately look at someone and know whether or not they're second gen. It's almost like second gen have this kind of aura around them saying, I'm second gen. And those second gen who I didn't feel very comfortable with, or who I tried to naturally kind of distance myself a little bit with, were generally second gen who, didn't really go to church, or they would go out partying, or they would go out drinking, they would be dating with other people, etc. And to be honest, in Korea, and even in Sunmun University, there were more second gen who were like that than there were second gen who I was comfortable to be around. And now I know that there are second gens who are easily influenced by other people. I know that there are second gens here in our community here in Sydney that are easily influenced by other people as well. And I know this because I've mentioned it to some and they have agreed with me. Then what should the second gen do who are easily influenced by other people? I think that, obviously, because we don't want second gen to be influenced in a bad way. We don't want second gen to be influenced in a satanic way. And the best thing for them to do is to hang out with good people, basically, or people who love God, people who love true parents, people who are close to God and true parents, and people who like to talk about God and true parents, and deliberately try and distance yourself from people who do things that are not what God and true parents like. So in that sense, the reason why I shared about why I felt a little bit distant to some people was in that way, I felt that naturally I was protected from in an environment where maybe not everyone, was close to God and true parents. And there is a sad reality as well, where during my time in Korea, when I was studying in uni, because of that, because I distanced myself with some people, I didn't have that many friends, and I wasn't necessarily lonely, but some people managed to make lots of friends and hang out with lots of people. But I, on the other hand, I was also kind of shy. Growing up, when I was young, I was a lot more shy than I am now. But coupling that with me distancing myself from some people, it meant that I didn't have many friends. But at the same time, I think that it was necessary for me in keeping my faith, both in growing my faith as well as in keeping my faith. And what I want to say is that because our relationship with God should come first, therefore I want to say that to protect relationship with God, this is the more important of the two. And unless you are mature enough to not be easily influenced by other people, I would actually recommend to the second gen, especially the younger second gen, to try and keep yourself closer with people who are close to God and true parents, and try and distance yourself from people who you feel are not that way. It might not be ideal, but if you are not yet mature enough to not be influenced easily by other people, then I would recommend you to do so. So during the school holidays in Korea, I would sometimes go outside of the dormitory to just an open grass area and pull out the DP book that I had brought to me to Korea. This is the same DP book that my mother used to study and read. So actually the back, is it called the backbone of the book? The backbone of the book was actually tearing, coming apart. And so it was quite an old book. It was not the black book that we have now for the DP. It was actually a red-brown colored one. Do you know of this? They used to be red-brown in the past. Yeah. So the wording of those books are actually slightly different. Like I took one later and compared with the new one, and the wording is just slightly different, but obviously the content is the same. Anyway, so I used to bring that old DP book out with me, pull it out and read it, and sometimes that would make me feel better, or that would make me feel more connected with God. So sometimes when you're in the dorms and you're on holidays and all of your friends either go back to their country or are doing other things, and there's very, very few people left in the dormitory, when I'm left because I don't have money to go back, then it gets a little bit lonely, and so I would sometimes just pull out the DP and read. And most of you would probably know, because I've shared, especially to the second gen, my blessing testimony quite a number of times to them. But this is also around the time when I was starting to prepare for the blessing. And I would say that my faith after the blessing is really when my faith matured and when my faith really stabilized. Now, I can confidently say that when I compare myself to back then, if I compare myself now to back then, I was very immature and I was very young at the time. However, as I shared in my blessing testimony, I do recommend, I would encourage second gens to actually be blessed at a young age. Of course, there are some prerequisites, such as having a really good and strong relationship with your parents, and having the support and having the love of your parents through that process, because if you don't and you do it by yourself, then that is not a good idea. But ideally, in a family with a strong parent-child relationship, being blessed early, I think, has more pros than it has cons, and that's what I felt through my blessing. So, the picture on the top left-hand corner is the blessing back in 2010, October 10. The blessing was held in some university. This is kind of weird because I was at the same time going there to study. And then the next picture, just on the right-hand side of that, is me, Dr. Young, and then Dr. Young's mother, so Harmony. Now, if memory serves me right, although my memory is not very good, that picture, I believe, was taken when Hee-ryung and Kwon-myung were getting matched. So that was, I think, Reverend Stone and Kwon-myung were there in that same room in the front tables. It was just at that time, because I'm pretty sure based on the clothes I'm wearing, that was the time that Kwon Myung's parents and Hee-ryung's parents had come together and held, was it reception, or it was I think it was a matching, wedding reception, perfect. So actually, if you take a look at all of these pictures, these pictures are taken in 4 different countries. So that's the first 2 are in Korea. Then the third one, the top right-hand corner, this is in Australia with Sihan. The picture in the middle on the left-hand side is me, Jisun, and my parents and my younger brother. This is taken in Cambodia. And then the picture in the middle on the right-hand side is me, Jisun, and then the Young family in Strathfield, in the previous house. And then the picture on the bottom left, both pictures on the bottom left, there's 2 of them. They're both taken in Thailand. And on the bottom right, this is taken, I keep doing that. The bottom right was taken in here in Australia during Jihan's first birthday. So yes, in terms of my faith, I think a lot of second gens think that you have to fully mature before receiving the blessing, but I would say that there is no way that I could have matured the same way I did if I was by myself, had I not received the blessing, compared to growing together after receiving the blessing, because you just grow so much more after you have a partner, after you're blessed with someone. You kind of have to grow more and have to learn how to live for the sake of others. And so definitely after receiving the blessing, my faith grew exponentially and then really stabilized. And so talking about the blessing, I went to Cheonpyeong twice. Well, 2 40 days when I was in Korea. And there was this one time when I was in one 40-day workshop. There were a couple of I was having lunch, I think it was lunch, with a couple of other BCs. And they were talking about the blessing. And one BC was saying that after receiving the blessing, it is still okay to break the blessing after receiving the blessing, but before having children. Because once you have children, obviously you can't break it because it becomes more complex with children in the mix, etc., etc. And then there was another BC who was agreeing with him. What do you think about breaking the blessing? Do you think it is okay to break the blessing before having children? When I heard that at the time, that statement really angered me. And to be honest, it still angers me now if I think about it. Because for me, it completely disregards the meaning and the value of the blessing. It completely disregards what true parents have done so far in order to give us the blessing. It also completely disregards the pain and suffering that maybe one of the people in that blessing, all of the effort that they're trying to put into the blessing to make that blessing work. And when the other person, just doesn't think about it and just completely ignores that, disregards that, and then breaks the blessing, then, it really brings a lot of pain. So for me, it is never okay to just break the blessing just because, you don't have children yet. So, when I think that, about that, it's kind of sad because, in Cheonpyeong, Cheonpyeong is where a lot of BCs come together from around the world. And it was sad because I realized that, wow, some BCs' way of thinking about the blessing is so different than what I know, than what I'm used to. And at that time, to be honest, I don't even remember what I did because I felt so angry. I think I said something, but I don't remember what I said at the time. But I'm pretty sure I just stormed out after. And the reason why I felt so strongly about that as well is because that is actually what happened to my older sister. So my older sister got blessed, I don't remember what year now, maybe 2007 or something like that. Well, she was blessed even earlier, I think. She was blessed, and then my older brother was blessed, and then I was blessed. But when she first got blessed, basically, her match had decided to go to the blessing almost on a whim. And then his parents decided, well, it's better to send him now, because if not now, then never, because he's not really very connected. But my sister basically, she did everything she could. So she was in Cambodia, so what she did, she actually moved to the US to live together with him. She moved into the same household to, close the gap between the distance. Language was not an issue. And yeah, I don't remember how long, but I think for a year or more, she really devoted herself to try and really make the blessing work. But in the end, he broke the blessing. And yes, while on the topic of the blessing, I also wanted to share something on behalf of the second-gen community here. And now when I think about it, I am only a parent of 1 year, so I've only been a parent for 1 year. And everyone else here is a senior to me in the parenting department by at least 30 years, I think. And so I apologize beforehand, because what I might share would come across sounding as rude. But what I wanted to say on behalf of the second gen is, when your children want to receive the blessing, please guide them to receive the blessing. Please don't tell them that they are too young, or please don't tell them that your older brother or your older sister should be blessed first, or that they are not ready to receive the blessing. Please guide them. Please help them to connect with God. Please allow God to help you and to help them make the decision whether or not they should be matched or whether or not they should be blessed. This is what my parents taught me through my blessing process, is that I shouldn't be making the decision. My mom and my dad shouldn't be making the decision. We should entrust it up to God whether or not, I should receive the blessing. And I know that if the parents here, if the first gen here, convey your heart that you had at the time when you received the blessing to your children, and when your children can recognize and inherit that heart, then I know that the children here would become amazing couples. I know the second gen here would really connect with God through their blessing. And yeah, I don't know what it is like to send a son or a daughter to the blessing. I can only imagine what it would be like for you as a parent to send your kids to the blessing. I would imagine that it would require you to have as much faith as you did when you first received the blessing. In fact, it might require more faith for you to send your children to go receive the blessing than it was for you to receive the blessing. But I know that if you convey your heart and your love and connection for God and your parents to your children, then they will definitely be able to connect with God and your parents. And so please guide them to receive the blessing. That is what I felt after having done, for several years now, Sunday school for all of the BCs in this community. And for me, there is nothing more painful to see than one of my brothers or sisters wanting to receive the blessing, but unable to do so. Back to my topic about when I was in Korea. So I took a class in Korea that was run by a professor in the theology department. This is the professor here, Professor Oh Tae-kyung. He actually came out just now on the Peace TV when True Mother was giving her benediction prayer in Africa, I think in the 2018, on the streets when True Mother was giving her prayer. I saw that he was actually standing quite close by as well, so he was there. Anyways, the title of his class was Malsum Hak, which I would translate roughly into God's words. And I really, really liked his class. He himself is very, very intellectual, and an intellectual style of teaching as well, which kind of resonates with the way I like to study the DP. And he really went deeply into a very intellectual part of the DP, of true parents, of unification thought as well. So I actually learned a lot from taking this one class. in the theology department. However, I would say my studying of God's words or my growth of my faith did not stop in Korea. So when I came into Australia as well, I continued to learn more about the DP. And that came primarily from doing hundoke together as a family. And even though we've changed the way that we do hundoke, or like what book we read over the years, for a long period of time we focused a lot of time on reading the 12-hour, what is it called now? 12-hour exposition of the divine principle, the 12-hour chart. And basically what we had to do is, after reading, each day a different person would have to explain the contents of what we had just read. So each day, me or someone else would have to explain the DP in, I guess, lecture style. And this kind of became, over the years, this became the framework for me to be able to share or teach about the DP, or give lectures about DP, or give lectures in workshops, as well as hold DP study sessions here in Sydney every Friday. By the way, if anyone wants to come and join, please come and join as well. We have around 6 to 7 regular members, but even the younger VCs, if you would like to join, please come, and we can study more about the DP every Friday. Towards the end, I would like to share some of True Father's words about hundoke. True Father says, hundoke should be done at least by the husband and wife of all blessed families. They should do it for an hour every morning. If they are unable to do it in the morning, they should do it in the evening before they sleep, even if it is 12 or 1 o'clock. I am doing this. When I went on the tour to South America this time, I did it after midnight, even though I was exhausted. I cannot skip it for even one day. Do you understand? So this is how true parents are emphasizing that each of us, actually each family, should be doing hundoke. And I think actually everyone here does. I hope everyone here does. But this is how I developed my faith. It was, in a sense, there was nothing special. There was no special training that I had to go through. There was no, special 5-year, 7-year course that helped me grow my faith. But it was actually just through daily life. It was just through daily reading of the hundoke and daily having to explain what the content is. That's actually helped me grow and deepen my understanding about the hundoke. I also want to share, I didn't put it on here, but I want to share one more of True Parents' words. He said, you should do hundoke whenever you have time, when you're alone or even when you are in the restroom. You should make a record of how many hours you read and of where you read or where you read. You should keep a book in your pocket and always do hundoke. True Father says, hundoke is my way of passing along all the treasure boxes I accumulated in my life under the indescribable hardships undertaken for the nation. I am giving it to everyone without exception. And he also says, my words are not spoken by me. I did not say them. They are words spoken by God through me. Your hearts will start to move no matter where and when you hear them. There will be a great revolution within your body when the heart is inspired. There is such power in those words. Whoops. So all of this actually I took out from the old Chonsangyeong. True Father's words from the old Chonsangyeong. But yeah, by continuing to read God's words every day, I would say that my faith does not wane. I would say that not only does it not wane, it also continues to grow and it continues to deepen. And yeah, in simple conclusion, reading God's words has become my foundation for my faith. So to conclude, I would say some people have an experience that becomes a turning point in their life. And the feeling I get from turning point is that it changes the direction that they were going. So perhaps someone was not connected to the church, and then they had an experience with the church, and then they became connected to God and True Parents. Now for me, I didn't really have this kind of a turning point. And I would more describe my experience from my parents as almost a more straightforward path. And I do believe that there are second generations here who would have the same kind of experience of going a pretty direct or pretty straight path of never really deviating from God, or never really saying, okay, I quit, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in the spirit world anymore, I'm going to leave this church and never come back. So I'm sure there will be second gens with a similar kind of experience as mine, and therefore I hope that by sharing my experience, it can kind of help you to maybe even understand your own faith or where it's coming from and how you can develop it. But then there will also be second gens who might have doubts. Does God really exist? Does the spirit world really exist? Like, I know there are second gens who have doubts. I don't know if they are here, but if you do have doubts, well, I hope that through my sharing of this as well, that you are able to find that you can find an answer through reading God's words or through experiencing God's word. And like I mentioned earlier, everyone has their own path in their faith. Everyone has their own path to maturity. And I hope that by sharing my experience, you can see the value of two things. Firstly, of inheriting your parents' faith or receiving what your parents are teaching you. And secondly, of reading in your own time, God's words, reading God's words through your time. And as I mentioned, I didn't have one extraordinary experience that completely changed my life of faith, but it was more of a gradual growth. And if I was able to find my faith in such a way, then I am sure that you and the second gens here can do the same. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Ken. Very well done. I feel like I make a lot of compromises in my approach to faith, and I think many people do, but whenever I see Ken, I feel like I see someone who really tries to understand the essence of the DP, of True Parents' words. And so I think he's a teacher at heart. I think, sometimes he says things that are not easy to digest, but he, I think, really has the best interests of God and True Parents at heart, and he tries to say what he feels needs to be said rather than what people want to hear. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, so moving on to the next song. Yes, can the choir please come up to the stage? Oh, sorry, yes. Yeah. Next. Yes. Well, while the choir is coming up, can I please invite up Reverend John and Auntie Shizio for the benediction prayer?
Just like to join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Parents, we're very grateful to be able to have Ken offer his heart and testimony as he's sharing his life of faith. It is really a great insight to recognize the value of you, our Heavenly Parent. You truly are the parent of all humankind, and you really do love us as your children. And we need to deepen our faith every day by reading your word, by loving each other, by expressing your heart to others. Our responsibility really is to move forward, not to stay where we are. We need to mature ourselves so that we can give the best to others. The kingdom of heaven is here with us. The True Parents were blessed in 1960, and we are on this journey to substantially realize your kingdom here upon this earth. And we know that the future does lie with the second gen, because the first gen just laid the foundation, and the second gen have to build upon it. And what they build will be a structure that embraces everybody and helps everyone to recognize you, our Heavenly Parent, as the true parent of all humankind. And through our true parents who are both in the spirit world and the physical world, that your kingdom will be realized. So I ask that your blessing can be with the second gen, that they can mature quickly and recognize and accept their responsibilities with happy hearts. And also all the first gen to be able to be sincere in their guidance and sincere in their faith, so that we generate the feeling and atmosphere of one family. We need to witness to each other, and we need to witness to the world at large. So I ask that your blessing be upon us all, and that this can be a springboard for our success. Thank you, Father. I offer you this in our names, John and Shizirad as a blessed central family. Arju. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So moving on to the song, please join the choir in the song My Offering. Second song, Yet Not I, but Through Christ in Me.
For heaven
choir. So we have a lot of announcements. I didn't feel strong enough to give them, so Reverend John will read them out. And afterwards, Auntie Katrine also has something to say. Here's Reverend John.
We have many announcements coming up because of the commemorative events that are happening around our True Parents Sunghwa. Events starting actually from September 3 going all the way to October 10. So there are events happening all the time, and they require at least our participation in some ways, and how we will do them together. So I'd like to read them, and then should be self-evident, many of them. The first being the commemoration of the anniversary of True Father's Holy Ascension, which is going to be on September 4th, 2020, 7.17 by the heavenly calendar, and that's at 10 a.m. and these are Korean times. Then there's the special show, H.J. Chombo's Special Great Works, which is happening on the 3rd to the 4th, which is an opportunity for people to bless their ancestors in time for the first group of people that will be Chombo Won registered couples. That's the last opportunity for people to do that blessing. So there's a special workshop at that time. Then there's the ILC celebrating the 15th anniversary of the Universal Peace Federation. And this is a series of events happening from September 11th to the 13th. Then we have the Rally of Hope for the realisation of a heavenly unified world, and the new date is September 27th. And on the Australian announcement WhatsApp, I put a simple flyer for people to have. And again, it's happening at 10 a.m. Korean time, which is 11, so you can print that out. Some people wanted to have a flyer that they can use to introduce guests and put their own, there's a space there that you can put your own information for people to talk to. So that's there. Then we have the Chongsong-jong Building Grand Dedication Ceremony, which is on the same day, September 27th. There's a few more. Then we have a victory celebration on September 28th. There'll be an online event that people will participate in during the Rally of Hope. And there will be some, like the previous Rally of Hope, during Father's Sunghwa, which is on the 4th, there will be an online event for members to participate in. They can watch it at home, where they just watch, or they can come here to the Peace Embassy, or zoom in to the Peace Embassy to be a part of it, because they've asked for, just like the Rally of Hope, to have people to be in a two-way communication. So we get to, Mother will have the screen up there again, and she'll see the blessed families, and we'll get an opportunity to wave and say hello and participate. So I recommend that you come during that, and so we can share together and really support Mother. So those things are happening. Then we have, again, the Chongalguk Leaders Assembly, which is from the September 28 to 29. This came out as an official announcement, and it is on the Australian announcement, so it's there. You can go back and look at it. Chombo Festival commemorating the 8th anniversary of the Holy Ascension of Sam Young Moon, our true parent of heaven, earth and humankind. This is the festival that's happening on October 10th, 10 a.m. Korean time. That's the ceremony where there's a number of couples around the world. In our Asia-Pacific regions, there are 193 couples that have fulfilled the victor's requirements and will be part of that ceremony. In in our Oceania region, we were able to get 21 couples, and Australia 17 couples, which is pretty amazing, really. So it's a congratulations to everybody for that. Then there's a special blessing on October 10th as well, and that's a blessing for second gen and first gen, together, and that's at 2 p.m. that day. Then we have some requirements. As all of these things and these events, there's a special donation, okay? Basically just, Part C, everyone is asked to do the donation, bless family and members alike. It's $210, and we're just rounding up the rate because of the different transfers that are involved. So Australian dollars for a couple, it's $315, and for singles, at least, you can do more if you like, but at least 180 Australian dollars. And the recommended deadline is September 30th. What's today? We got a month. We have a month. So we got a month. We got some time. When I first looked at it, I thought, oh, today, no. But so that's just extra things that I have to worry about. But I just put everything up. And then for this, we're asked to really celebrate. Because during the event on September 4th, especially those that are going to be online and participating, they want, because Mother's going to see us, down the bottom there, there is a dress code that we dress in dark suits and light-coloured suits for women. And so we're showing our respect, and that it is if we were in Korea, we would be really representing ourselves correctly and very respectfully. So being here together, we can do that. So like it says in B there, bless families all over the world. It's an online participation. So it's the more that can come, the better. Of course, it is going to be televised, through Peace TV. So there is a link, so people can look at it at home. But I recommend that everyone comes and that we share as a community and a family. And as it says there, we have to, make a nice offering just as a holy day, with, as it says there. I don't need to read it. You can read it on the announcement. So thank you. I'll just go back before I say thank you. There is one more thing. That's the Parents' Workshop on October 19. It's here at the Peace Embassy, and it's from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And will be here, but also there'll be a Zoom link as well. Yeah, September 19th, not October. September 19. Those are. Is there any other announcements? Oh, well, okay. Katrine, come up.
Yes, good morning, brothers and sisters. Thank you for this beautiful service. I did not realize it was a youth service today. You're sharing, and I happened to be at your blessing, actually, because Naomi was blessed on that day. I was very moved last night to receive a phone call from Stefan Papuska. And he said, are you going to church tomorrow? And if yes, can you give greetings from Stefan and Afrodita to the whole church community? So I pass it on to you this morning. Maybe many of you don't know who they are, maybe. Stefan was born in Slovakia, then it wasn't, now it's Slovakia, and he met the church through Emma Bell, as they were working in the same nursing home in Sydney. And he was blessed, I think in 1997 in Washington, to a beautiful sister from Albania. Her name is Aphrodita. And so she has been, lately some of you know about it, she's been really fighting illness. And so she's, Emma and I visit her regularly, and she's unfortunately coming to the end, very close to the end of her life. So at the same time, I thought I'd make a little request of prayer, because, you know, she needs a lot of help to go through that stage of that new birth in the spirit world. And we feel, of course, many angels, many good spirits are surrounding her, but since she was part of our blessed community, it's really wonderful that you can think of her every day if possible, and even a few times a day, for a very smooth and wonderful path. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much, Auntie Katrine. I think it's our community's ability to come together in these times is really precious, so I pray that can go well for her. So thank you. We're at the end of our youth service. I hope you enjoyed the collaboration of the youth here. A lot of people put in a lot of time. Please share time upstairs and enjoy the rest of the week. Thank you.